So President Donald Trump has recently announced a brand new unemployment slash buyout program that is going to be applying to 2 million federal workers, but is going to also have a potential impact to a lot of the areas in our labor market. So if you are someone that is currently looking for a brand new job, or you're just very interested in how our economy is doing, then this is going to be the very, very important video for you because it is relatively breaking news. The big idea behind this is that right now at this current time, he has announced and demanded, President Donald Trump has announced and demanded that he wants all federal workers to return to work in person, and that if they were to not want to return to work, he is offering a severance package where he will essentially pay you the equivalent salary of what you would normally have made for the next 8 months to leave your job. In other words, you will essentially be getting almost like a kind of their own version of an unemployment benefits severance package, where he will be paying you money to leave your job and do absolutely nothing. And while this might necessarily sound like a great idea, there are some flaws to this idea which we really have to talk about. So in today's video, what I really want to talk about is the details to what's been going on in that world. I want to talk about the significance of this and how this is going to impact us, and just about a little bit of everything. Now, I have a lot of videos out there talking about unemployment, so if you guys are interested in hearing more about this, feel free to consider subscribing and hitting the bell. If you guys have been here for a while, and especially if you guys have been here since the time that I was unemployed and sharing my story being unemployed, then a huge shout out and thanks for being here all the way throughout these years and supporting this channel. But with that being said, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. Especially feel free to comment your personal thoughts about whether or not you do or do not agree with this program. And with that being said, let's get started. So the story to what's been going on right now, as just mentioned, is that President Donald Trump has recently created an unemployment slash buyout program where he will essentially pay federal workers, so the 2 million people that are working for the federal government, but we're going to talk about how this is going to impact you even if you don't work for the federal government in a little bit. But the idea is that he is offering all 2 million federal workers a chance to essentially leave their jobs and voluntarily decide to leave it, so that he will essentially give you a severance package equivalent to what your pay would have been for the next 8 months to basically do absolutely nothing but leave your jobs. However, on the other hand, is that there is a little bit of a risk to it, because he did also say that no one's job is going to be guaranteed this time. And so if you decide to not take this severance package, there is a very probable or certainly reasonable chance to believe that he may end up deciding to downsize, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit as well, but decide to downsize the government and lay you off anyway. So in other words, you risk that if you end up not taking the severance package, you may now potentially end up losing your job regardless, except the difference is that if you lose your job through being fired slash, through their ways now, then what's going to happen is that you will now have to lose your job and receive almost absolutely nothing. In other words, you would not be getting the severance package, and you would just be forced to leave your job because you decided not to take it while you had the opportunity to. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about maybe whether or not you would take this severance package, because while taking this severance package might sound like a really, really great thing, I mean, at the end of the day, you are getting paid to do nothing, and wouldn't that be the dream for a lot of us? There are actually a lot of flaws and problems to taking this package, or that I think not a lot of people are really thinking about. For instance, the first problem that may come about trying to take this program is that although it's really, really nice to have a severance package to be able to, get paid to do nothing for 8 months and just chill and be unemployed during that time period, the problem is that eventually those 8 months are going to have to run by. And it means that there's going to be a lot of pressure between now or when you take that severance package, which I believe the deadline to take it is going to be around the middle of February. So if you decide to take that severance package in the middle of February, between February and September, you now have the pressure of having to look for a brand new job, or otherwise end up having those 8 months go by and then ending up realizing you have no income coming in, and things become a lot more difficult. So I think that's going to be the very, very first problem that might potentially come out from this. Now, the second problem that really, really is important to share about what might come out from this program is that it's not even just the fact, and this is the part why it's going to impact a lot of people, even if you are not a federal worker, but if let's just say if all 2 million people either take the severance package or ultimately end up losing their jobs because they did not want to take off their severance package but end up being downsized anyway, there is also a risk that what this can potentially do is essentially destroy the labor market for basically everyone else. So what is the logic behind this is that essentially is that if a lot of people, and in this case we're talking about 2 million people, end up deciding to just partially, well, some of them deciding to just take that severance package and leaving their jobs, and then you have another, let's say 1 million people that end up losing their jobs regardless anyway, but this time with no severance package, what this is going to do is that it's going to put about 2 billion people and leave them unemployed, entering into the labor force right now, looking for a brand new job. So this is very, very problematic, is that because right now during these times, we are going through very, very difficult economic times when it comes to looking for a job. And this is something that you can read lots and lots of articles about, but I can certainly also say is that, and we've made a lot of videos already talking about this, and we probably will make more videos. So if you guys haven't done so, consider subscribing if you guys want to receive updates about that. But the idea really is that because right now, even from my own daily life, I know a lot of people that have been unemployed, and in many cases for well over 8 months. In some cases, even over a year. There are people that are unemployed or have been unemployed and struggling to find work for probably about a year now. So the story is that if 2 million people enter into the labor workforce trying to find a new job, it's just going to lead to even more competition when it comes to looking for work for basically now everyone who's unemployed. So it's not just the federal workers who lose their jobs that are going to be impacted, but it's basically everyone in the labor market, because what this means is that now if we have the same number of jobs, but we have more people looking for work, then it means that the competition to land those few jobs that exist is going to have to go up as well. And I think that that's really the way that it's going to impact a lot of people. Whether or not you are a federal worker or not a federal worker at all, it certainly, if anything, is going to impact career advancement, because a lot of times, even in regular companies, for you to be promoted into your, into the next level of whatever your job is, someone has to leave their job. But if everyone is so fearful of losing their jobs, especially in this particular labor market, they're not going to leave. And if they're not going to leave, then you're going to stay put in the same exact position that you've been working in for the next, or for the last, who knows how many years or months, depending on how long you've been working that particular position. But for most people, I know we're going to be counting in years, of course, because that's just what's typical. And I think it's also really, really important to notice is that if you end up taking this severance package, what's going to happen is that you actually would not qualify for unemployment benefits. And the reason why is that because you're still receiving money from the government, it means that they count this as somewhat of a kind of income coming in. So those people would not be able to receive unemployment benefits. Now, with that being said, is that in a lot of ways, the severance package is probably going to pay you more money than what the unemployment benefits, so the current regular unemployment benefits programs are going to pay you anyway. So that's probably going to be a relatively good thing in the sense that you'll at least be receiving more money. It is currently unclear if you end up being fired by the government in the future. So let's say you don't take the severance package, but you end up losing your job anyway. It is unclear right now whether or not you would qualify for unemployment benefits, because they just haven't specified a lot of details about it. But I think it's really important now maybe to shift to talk a little bit about the motivation to why he wants to do this. The first motivation why Donald Trump is really trying to create this program is that he wants to bring people back to work, but even more specifically, he wants to bring people back to work who actually genuinely want to be there. And as we know is that President Trump, regardless of what your opinion about him, he is a very polar figure. Most people either really, really love Trump and they're willing to go to the ends of the earth to do something for him, or they just really, really do not like him. So if you are someone that is working for the government and you're on the side of people that do not like him, then it's very reasonable to think that there might be a lot of people that maybe do not want to go back to work because they don't feel like trying to work and supporting him as an employer, which makes a lot of sense. Why would you want to work to support a CEO slash manager slash boss who you don't even believe in, right? Unless you were just desperate for the job, which is again, another reasonable thing to really have to behave in do. But the idea is that the motivation behind the severance package is essentially trying to get people to come back to work, but also making it so that for people that do not want to go back to work, whether this is because they don't like the job or they don't like the people they're supporting, in this case, the Trump administration, and then they have the option to essentially now leave their jobs and still make money and have a financial cushion for the next 8 months. The second motivation behind why he wants to do this is really about the fact that the government right now, as we know, is in a lot of debt. And there's a lot of problems that are going on inside of our government. So by doing this downsizing and program, what is going on is that he essentially wants to shrink the labor market in the government. So specifically he wants to create more jobs in other areas, but he's willing to shrink the size of the government in order to save money and having to pay a lot of people. If he ends up saving a lot of money, he can now use that money to do other things. This is obviously going to lead a lot of people to be unemployed, but it is just one of the sacrifices that he sees he might, again, we don't know if he's going to do it, but he might have to make in order to help support the government and give more funding and money to them. But of course, this is a really, really interesting topic, so I'd love to hear your particular thoughts about this. Maybe whether or not you would take that severance package, your thoughts about this in general, and maybe any particular things you might want to share. But with that being said, that's what I really wanted to share in today's video. So if you guys found that insightful, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell. I'll put some videos you can watch after this, including one talking about my story, about what I learned when I was unemployed during the pandemic for 1 year because my industry was shut down during that time period. So feel free to check out that video if you're interested. And with that being said, thank you guys so much. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.